Hey guys, Texas Slim here. We have a special guest, a very good friend of mine today. We're going to be presenting Adam Curry's presentation at the Georgia Beef Initiative Summit that we had at White Oak Pastures, hosted by Will Harris. His presentation is based on something that we're all moving forward to, and I wanted everybody to understand that the relationship that I have with Adam started about a year ago, and he had heard me and met me through Marty Bent. And what it was from day one, it was based on a value for value exchange of integrity, respect, and we've had a roadmap the last 12 months that he's helped me develop more professionally. I hope that I've helped him develop a little bit more within food intelligence itself. And what it is, I'm always working and striving to basically match the value for value exchange in which I feel obligated to. And it's a sense of personal accountability. Adam has traveled around the United States now many times over. He's traveled around the world. But what he is, he's heavily invested into the Beef Initiative and to the success of what I am trying to do as far as Texas Slim, the Beef Initiative, from everything from the source of the seed all the way to the vertical integration to from the soil to your fork. There's a lot going on here. This is the new international lifestyle. He basically, he is the Podfather. He's been going with the No Agenda, his podcast, for over 15 years now, right about there, almost 1,500 episodes, I believe. But one thing that they do is they do value for value exchange. They go out there and they ask everybody, hey, do you find this valuable? If you find this valuable, give back. Give us your time, talent, and treasure. That is what the Beef Initiative is about. If you find what we are doing valuable, go to our page, go to our platform. We have a donation page there, and it's based on a value for value exchange. One thing that I will be releasing here pretty soon, especially going into 2023, is our scholarship fund. We have a formal scholarship fund. It is a nonprofit, and it's the voice for and of the American rancher. And we're going to give a new voice to the American rancher. And one way we're going to do it is we're going to allow the ranchers that come in through the Beef Initiative to have a voice in which they never have had, especially a digital voice. But one voice that they really need to leverage moving forward as we recreate the beef industry in the United States and across the world is that they are educators. And so what I did is I put up one full Bitcoin of my own that I did. I'm not a rich man. It took time for me to get there, and I guarantee you, I bought it a lot more expensive than at 20,000. But that doesn't matter. It's a long term store of value that I believe in, and most of you hopefully believe in the same. But by saying that, we need your help. I'm not a rich man, like I've said many times over. I drive an old pickup truck. I'm basically homeless. I have proof of work. I basically liquidated my life over 3 years ago to accomplish this. This is a lifelong endeavor for me. It's a lifelong opportunity for me, and it's a lifelong gift that I get to steward everything that we're doing moving forward. So, on that note, give. Give us your time, talent, and treasure. Give what you can. Go to the Beef Initiative. Get invested. Why are you here? This is not entertainment. This is a lifestyle. It's based on a value for value exchange. Let's get moving forward together. This is a collaboration. This is open sourced. This is crowdsourced. We're all doing this together. Go recruit, bring everybody in. We're going to go save some children's lives based on value for value exchange. It's the new international lifestyle. Take a look at Adam right now. You'll think the same thing. Love you guys.
Excited. It's I think I've met almost everybody. If not, still need to speak before the big bonfire after supper. I got it. Charles, man, thank you so much. Whenever I've been around entertainment, music, television, all my professional life, so I know when people are showmen, when they have certain attributes. And Charles's voice, like when he talks, I expect him to break into a country song. Darling, why did you leave me? And why did you leave me too? Twice? Sorry, I'm a two-timer too, brother. Yeah. And just on that note, I'm very, very blessed and fortunate that right around my 50s, I met the love of my life, who I should have been with, of course, for many, many years. So, Charles, there is hope. For sure. For sure, it can happen. The bid block boom. Yeah, thank you. I want to talk about Slim in a moment as well. But Mr. Will Harris and the entire Harris family and everyone working here, thank you so much for what you have done, for what you have brought in here, for how you've treated us, for the fantastic food, for the love. Incredibly educational. Again, I've been around entertainment all my life, sir. You are a natural-born entertainer. That farm tour of yours is outstanding. He knows when to make the joke. It's like a podcast, only he does it live three times a day. It's really, and I learned where the etymology of the word bully. I mean, this is a big deal. I'm very, very delighted that I believe you've accepted Joe Rogan's invitation to come on his show in a couple of weeks or so. And Joe Rogan is kind of, in a way, a binding thread amongst a lot of people here. You heard Charles talk about it. But Joe invited me on the show when he was still in Los Angeles in, I think it was February or March of 2020, so just before the lockdown. In fact, I remember flying to LA and people had Gucci masks on and stuff, you know, at LA, of course, you know, that's what you expect. And God bless Joe Rogan because he did something really, really beautiful. He completely recertified me. You know, podcasting, Dave Weiner and I invented that 18 years ago. There's a lot of people listening to podcasts who weren't alive at the time. So for Joe to create or re-credentialize me where Charles knows I'm the Podfather, you know, that it was such a boost for me in so many ways. I was just thinking about podcasting 2.0. There was just, you know, stuff was kind of weird in the atmosphere. We didn't know what was going to happen. And because of Joe's exposure, our show doubled in the amount of people that were listening. And the Joe Rogan show has such an impact, and he is such a pure, honest human being. You will love your time there, and it will do everybody good. I prayed for something with Beef Initiative or Food Intelligence to be on the Joe Rogan show. I really did. And I always thought, you know, that'll be Slim. And he works in weird ways. It's you, sir. So you're not, you know. But it's going to be great. I'm very excited to see that. And if you come through Hill Country, Fredericksburg, where I live, we'd love to return some of the hospitality. That's all right. You'll be able to sleep in your sleeping bag on our. That's how it works. So because of this, I met Marty Bent. Marty Bent connected me with Slim. Now, and you know, I've always kind of heard this Bitcoin beef kind of correlation, particularly in Austin. Now, I moved out of Austin a year and a half ago because I felt it was time for me to re-enter the state of Texas. After 12 years, I needed it. Fredericksburg's still not far enough, really, now that I've been here, but it's a step in the right direction. So Marty connected me to Slim, and we had a meeting. Actually, we talked before, but I think Slim came to the house in Fredericksburg, and he sat me down, and he kind of, you heard the Heritage Women panel, he kind of said the same thing. Man, I'm doing this for the kids, for the children. And I looked at Slim like, bro, I'm kind of doing the same thing right now, because with podcasting, and this is right around the same time, when I went on the Joe Rogan show, Joe was leaving for Spotify. Apple Podcasts, who would, you know, I had given kind of them the approval to please go roll out podcasting because Steve Jobs asked me if he could. They'd been really great stewards of it until they weren't, and they deplatformed, 5 or 6 podcasts. Most notable Alex Jones, but X22 report, and all these, like, what is this? And it wasn't just that Apple did it; it was in coordination with Facebook and YouTube. You're like, this is bullshit. This is not, it's actually very dangerous. And that's not what we put podcasting. That wasn't the reason why we created it. So that's when I started to look at a way to, shore that up. And I'll give you some of the background of that. But I kept bumping into these 30-year-olds, mainly men, somewhere between, let's say, millennials, 27, 37 kind of age, give or take. And they were all kind of in Bitcoin and Lightning and podcasting. And every single one of them had the same story. And this is what really blew me away. I was born in 1990. People I'm talking to, my daughter is 32, so I can identify with what they're saying. This was Gulf War I. It was really weird. I remember my daughter sitting in the rocking chair, watching CNN. Then, of course, somewhere around middle school, 9/11. I mean, you have to go back and think about how traumatizing that must have been for 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Don't worry, though. We got you covered. We're going to smoke him out of his hole. And then we invaded the wrong country, and there was anthrax, and there was aluminum tubes, and then, Patriot Act and stuff clamped down. Don't worry, we got you covered. So everyone's going into college. Some of them learned some things. They come out. They got degrees that are no good. They've got, a $13 an hour job. That's changed now, but $13 an hour doing something they don't like. Oh, by the way, financial crisis. Don't worry, we got you covered. It's all going to work out. This just kept on going and going, and the social contract was broken. So these kids, as I call them, they checked out. Like, no. Some of them had solutions. Bitcoin is what they're doing. They're creating, a lot of them are just zombifying. But these are the smart ones. They're switched on, and that's kind of where I found Slim. I'm like, man, we need to do this, and we need to come up with ways to solve all these really big problems. And this is where kind of value for value comes in. So it's a journey that, I've heard the value word at least 150 times. It's value, value for value, value to value, it doesn't matter. But where does it come from? How can we apply it? Because it sounds really, like, oh, well, I just asked and Brad said, yeah, I'll do this pro bono, and that's value for value. But we're doing something here that is the actual definition of value for value. Let me take you through what I call the new international lifestyle. I stole this from my buddy Slim because he started saying, oh no, we're living the new international lifestyle. I said, that's it, Slim, that's my tagline. Value for value, the new international lifestyle. And it is a way what we're living right now, if this works. So in my world, and we'll bring this into the physical world, value for value is three things. Monetization model, how you can make money off of content. It is actually part of the format of the content. As it turns out, as we can all witness here, it's a bit of a lifestyle. So 19, almost 20 years ago, I was trying to solve a particular problem. I'm a radio guy my whole life. I love radio. MTV was just a kind of a side shoot. I don't like video at all. But I really didn't like that people would tell me or had control of the airwaves and could tell me how I could actually broadcast, what I could say, what I could do. When I was 15, I worked at a pirate radio station in Amsterdam. So I've had quite a career of going against the system. And through all these kind of happenstances, we discovered that we don't need stinking transmitters. We can create radio on our own terms. And we actually did a couple of interesting things. Radio, you used to get in the car, listen to it, your favorite show. If you missed it, you missed it. Did you hear what so? Howard Stern is a great example. I used to live in New Jersey, drive into New York. It was tedious, but because of the Howard Stern show, we had 2 hours in traffic. You could listen. And if you missed it, you'd be at work, people like, man, did you hear what Howard said and all this? Of course, Howard Stern, I don't know who this guy is on Sirius, but there was a different Howard Stern. But podcasting also really changed how we use our time besides being able to determine when we want to listen. We could do more things that turn out to be incredibly valuable. So here's value, right? What things do we value? This is kind of my value chart. I really value my sleep. It's like 6-7 hours. If I can get that, I'm really happy. If not, I feel crap. And so then it wasn't very good. Whenever I can learn, if I learn about how you manage your land and going into circular with moving the cattle. I mean, seeing it and hearing it is so much different than Slim telling me over and over and over again. I had the basics, but to see it was so important. Entertainment, yeah, it's funny, but I don't really, I don't care that much about it. I may not pay that much for it. But man, all of a sudden, with podcasting, I have doubled my time. This is so valuable. I can do something entirely different while listening to a podcast. And it turns out we're really good at that as humans, especially if it's something mundane like driving or mowing the lawn. My boy Eric at home, he mows the lawn listening to podcasts and his THC vape. So how did this come about, and how did I learn that you can actually live a value for value lifestyle? So it'll be 15 years, October 26th, John C. Dvorak and I started the No Agenda Show. We're both media professionals who wanted to deconstruct the media. We wanted to pull it apart, show people how the sausage is made. And of course, the only thing in the sausage is BS. But it's fun, and of course, we expanded and we started to kind of do some of our own research, but our own stories, our own history, which even goes to climate change. It's like I remember Leonard Nimoy, Dr. Spock, doing entire specials on television telling me, "We are going to die of cold. Climate cooling. We are all going to die of the ice age." So, I've been around. I remember when the scientists and everyone in the UK said, "Oh, hey, mate, children will never see snow except in a snow globe by 2000. Unbelievable stuff if you've just been around long enough. So we knew that by communicating these ideas on a podcast, that would not be very popular with advertisers. Advertising is always censorship of some kind. Always, always, always. I've lived my entire life by advertising. Everything has been advertising driven up until 15 years ago. And it's unbelievable how crippling it is if you really just want to speak freely. You always have filters on. And everyone you see on television, anyone in the mainstream, they've got filters running 24/7. They can't even stop it in their personal lives. So we needed to come up with a way to get compensated for the work we were doing. We were doing a pretty good show. And so we said, we can't take ads, but why don't you guys, we'll set up a subscription and we'll do $5 a month. Maybe it was $5 a show, I think, at the time. And so predictable results. We got, people sending us, signing up, $5. And we looked at that and said, well, we definitely can't eat from this. And we discussed this on the show. This is not going to work. There's just not enough of you doing it. And then we said, why don't you just send us whatever you think the show is worth? $5, $5. But what if you went to the movie theater, you took a date, had some popcorn, a drink, $50, easy. Was our 2.5 hours worth the same as your movie experience or not? I don't know. So within a day, we got still a lot of people sending us $5, an enormous amount sending us $50, and several sending us $500, and one $5,000 donation. And so that's when it hit me. Oh my goodness, I can't determine what you think is valuable. You can't determine what I think is valuable. So the Silicon Valley model of we're going to price this and you're going to pay whatever we tell you, and that's it's so short-sighted. So I think one of the best love songs ever written is the Beatles' I Want to Hold Your Hand. 99 cents, $99 all day long if I can just play it over and over again. This is the type of thing that is completely underestimated, and our brains don't really even work that way. And this is the big one. Well, I'll tell you about this in a second. It's all in the ask. And that's what Slim intuitively knows. He goes to Brad. He says, man, I need this. Here's my story. I'm providing value into the community in this case. And by the way, there can be all kinds of commercial relationships around value for value. Can you help me out? Yes, boom, value for value. It comes back. Now this kind of exchange that was incredibly valuable to Slim, what Slim and the Beef Initiative are doing is incredibly valuable to Brad. That market force kind of comes together automatically, but you have to ask. And this is very, very hard. I had a great time. Slim, now whenever he's coming through town, I say, you better come over 290 so we can have you come tell some stories, stay overnight, and we'll throw some KNC beef on the grill. And And he said, Adam, I really, really love the idea, but this is not where I come from. We don't ask for stuff. That's not how I grew up. You work hard, you get paid, but it's like begging, and this is so hard. I said, and we talked about this for several sessions, and then we had a lunch, I think, in Kerrville, or just before that, and you mentioned barn raising. I say, that's it. That's how you ask. You're doing barn raising. And a barn raising, everyone comes out to help. The whole community comes. So I think that really struck it for you, and everybody has to, whatever you're doing, you need to find your way to ask. It is the hardest thing. When you ask for blessings, forgiveness, you can learn how to ask. And when you ask, people return the value, and you will always be blown away by how much more they may value than you ever thought possible. So this turns into a feedback loop on our show. This is where it comes into a content format where, man, it works the best if you have people sending you support, little note, you read their note, that immediately entices everybody, it motivates people, it's aspirational. People, nothing on our show we came up with ourselves. They came up, well, if I've donated $1,000, you're a knight. Why should the queen, God bless her, why should the queen have that, or the king, why should the king have that right? And then we're going to give you all kinds of things when you reach certain levels. And amazing things have come out of this community. And I think, how many people have listened to No Agenda who are here? I'm blown away by that. I had no idea. I thought it was just going to be a bunch of ranchers and Bitcoiners. So I'm going to come back to you again in a minute there, Slim. Just a little bit of the history of how we've digitized this with Bitcoin and the Lightning Network. And this happened at the same time. Everything started to lock down. I'd done Joe's show. I've been on 4 times now, which is phenomenal. But the first time I was on, and the markets crashed. Bitcoin went down to 4,000. I look at Tina, and I say, I'm not going to make the mistake I made in 2016. We're buying. And she said, yes, we are. So we bought. Then I got a Lightning node and started to figure it out. And very quickly, I saw that despite what it's really kind of being used for, and all love to Lightning Labs, this was finally making one thing possible that Silicon Valley has been promising forever. And there's 2 things that they've always promised. One is your refrigerator will know when you're out of milk, and it will automatically restock it for you. I'm still waiting for that. But micropayments, real small fraction of a penny micropayments, which they're not actually that interested in, but I saw it and said, oh my, I can broadcast an MP3 audio, you're hearing that, it's just ones and zeros, and simultaneously, I'm going to send back ones and zeros of Bitcoin at a value I determine. Some people do, it's every minute, so maybe do a 60th of a dollar, or whatever you feel is necessary. And this concept has grown into a way to share value digitally with the software developer who makes the app, with people who help with the podcast. If you really want to learn about it, podcastindex.org or value4value.info will give you a little bit more. This is really it. It puts you at the center of all the market forces because you determine value. You can walk away from something. You can have an ongoing dialogue, a good conversation, and you will come to that common place. Now, a little bit about what you've done for me, Slim. I can't remember your real name. You're Texas Slim. You always will be. Very cheap. So as I mentioned, I've been married. Well, my wife and I have been together almost 8 years, married for a couple. And it's really been fantastic to find this love later in life. In our case, it's fortunate we had children with other people. So we kind of jumped into empty nesterhood. And Tina was, for a while there, she was working. She was a chief communications officer for Ronald McDonald Charities. That's actually how we met. She was running all Ronald McDonald House communications in Austin. And I was doing some work for them, and that's how we met. But she'd been doing that all her life. She decided to kind of semi-retire. She said, I want to go do something. She wants to be busy. She worked in retail, and then we moved to Fred, and she was in retail again. but it really is slow, particularly during the week. And you can just see her kind of shutting down a little bit. Just you start doom scrolling on Twitter and Facebook, and but also, like most women in the world, she too had been completely psyoped by the food industrial complex. She, oh no, red meat, no, that'll give you. I mean, not that she didn't eat red meat, but I'm careful because saturated fats is going to clog my arteries, it's going to be in my intestines for years. Also, horrible body image, which is completely psychologically manipulated on every single woman in the world. It is disgusting, and Instagram just exacerbates that, makes it much worse. And she's always had trouble trying to maintain what she felt would be good weight. She doesn't measure. She does it by how her clothes fit. She doesn't even want to stand on a scale. So through these sessions that Slim is coming through town, he's talking about animal protein, talking about what it does for you, for your body, and he's just going through his rap, right? And she's going, yeah. And then I get some, a quarter cow from K&C, and so we're cooking stuff. And then she decides just 2 weeks ago, this is, I think, just before you came through the last time, or just after you came through the last time, Slim, she's going to do the 75 hard challenge, which is a crazy-ass workout for 75 days. But in addition to that, she's going to do the carnivore code. And so she's like, I hope you don't mind because, we might have to have hamburgers for breakfast. I say, dude, I'm a dude. Are you kidding me? This is fantastic. Steak, hamburger. So, and now I feel fantastic, but I see her, it's like her whole face, she lights up. She's happy in the morning, and it's just, everything is open up. And I've heard 3-4 stories from people personally. And we heard one on stage here from the Meat Mafia. This is miracle stuff. So I am in your debt, sir, for beef pilling us, if you will. It was really, really fantastic. So there's this interesting correlation between podcasting, Bitcoin, and the people who use those or are aware of those. Now, almost everyone's probably heard of podcast, Bitcoin. Maybe you're just getting into it. Maybe you've been in it for a long time. But this is what I think Slim identified is when you have a common code, a common language, in this case, is Bitcoin. When you meet someone, in other words, I'm a Bitcoiner, or I've been looking at Bitcoin, or I've been researching it, your relationship is already a week further than someone who hasn't had that. So then you can get into trust and relationship and speaking about things very quickly, which is exactly how we came together. Because if we had bumped into each other on the street 10 years ago, I'd probably been like, I'm a crazy hippie cowboy. Let me walk over here. And I'm sure a lot of you would have walked around me like, not that, Hollywood douche, whatever. So coming together here is really, really important. So this is what I call the parallel system. And we're building it right now. I didn't really know it was going to happen that way. It just kind of, it came to be all more or less the same time. And that's when I was talking to you and I mentioned food intelligence, and then, just things pop around and we're growing. And so now we have parallel system number 1, which is food, nutrition. I mean, my job is obviously keep the communications open so that we can't be censored. And we succeeded in that. We have the censorship-resistant payment system, which is equally as important, which can be applied to any type, certainly online, any type of online media can be done value for value. But what you're seeing here is the physical reality of it. So when Slim came into my life and he starts talking, of course, we had the Bitcoin values together. But he says, no, man, a cow is proof of work. Oh! And then who was, I don't remember who was telling me that the cow used to be the bank account or for the rancher, and the processing center is the checking account. Like, oh my God, you can apply this everywhere where value is stored, how it's stored. Of course, you can't keep a cow in your head. You can keep a Bitcoin 12 words in your head and you can be good to go. So all of these things start to come together, and we need to build a lot more of them. Food intelligence, Slim. I'm doing, the communications. We talked a lot about homeschooling today. This is the beauty. We have all the technology at our fingertips. Every single, and we have open source technology, so you don't have to use Zoom, et cetera. You can use other things. And we all need to educate each other on that. That's so big. And then this is actually an old slide I had. We need some telemedicine. Boom, enter crowd health. Are you kidding me? You look at crowd health, like this is a parallel system. So I'm convinced, I've been deconstructing media. I've been in media, but deconstructing media for a long time. We can't fix what's going on right now. We can't fix. We can do a couple of things. One is make sure we're resilient, we're censorship resistant, make sure that we have the systems we need when stuff comes crumbling down. And I share the fear of what is happening to ranchers and farmers. I really do. And I grew up in the Netherlands, so and I, as I forgotten a lot in my life, but I think about growing up. We had to get the potatoes from the field. I worked in the rose glass houses, which may sound glamorous, but when you at the end of the summer, you just all cut up from all across your arm. We used to shear sheep, and I've learned how to do some stuff. But you forget about how important it is to be close to that, and for it to be not this fiat. I'm so freaked out, and it's hard for me to explain to other people all the time. You're not eating food, man. And your Texas beef, it's going to China. It's sold as caviar. It's good stuff. You're getting crap here. So these things are of critical importance. Everybody has a role to play, and I think just this Beef Initiative conference here, I think enough different connections have been made that we can come up with. We need some physical distribution networks. Certainly seeing what's going on with the prices of distribution locally and across country. It's almost impossible to afford that. We need a lot of different things. So we've got Bitcoin to connect us. Find your Bitcoin people. Make sure that that you seek these people out, because they will all individually have something that you can contribute to the society that we need to have kind of working for everybody. Important to say, we're not going to red pill, orange pill, beef pill everybody in the world. Sorry, there's going to be a lot of zombies. That's what it is. This group, your families, your communities, you're going to build, you're going to grow, you're going to continue to hopefully build something that is, I almost call it America 2.0 is what it feels like sometimes. And local politics. This is the key. Local. The mistake my generation made in the 80s and 90s, man, we were making money. It was sexy. We had just party, fantastic. School board, that's some loser who couldn't get a better gig. City council, please. And now you see what's happened. So parents especially, make sure you double down on that local politics. So that's kind of a brief overview of Value for Value. Are there any questions or anything I can discuss that you'd like to hear about? Man, I did it. Everybody gets it. Sure, man. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting question, because my partner on the show, John C. Dvorak, has a huge Bitcoin phobia, not for Bitcoin itself, but for Bitcoin touching the company. We have an LLC partnership because that could trigger taxes and all kinds of problems. Personally, I'm pretty convinced his issue is that he had the opportunity, like me, to buy a lot of Bitcoin or get it for free in 2010, and he's pissed that he didn't. But the Lightning Network has actually, and I don't know if we should go into the details of it, but it actually makes everything, that much more understandable and accountable to a vendor. And with IBEX, you can shuttle directly through to your fiat accounts. The Lightning Network makes, we call it layer 2, that makes Bitcoin completely usable, programmable for any scenario. And what I like about IBEX and these guys, they can customize for anybody's situation. It's scary though. So, my part, he's a little older than I am. I'm working him. We're going to get there through systems like this where it's not direct, but it is clearly something that is going to work for the future. The Lightning Labs has stake their future on it, so you could literally go, from yen through the Lightning Network to dollars. There's all these different things, and we'll need to do that. We can't be completely militaristic about our use of fiat versus Bitcoin, we'll have to integrate for some time, because I know that White Oak Pastures, they're going to have a little bit of a process getting into this. Like, okay, everyone's used to doing the thing they've been doing forever, and now we introduce something new. It's scary, it's challenging, but it is the technology that will do it. And I'm completely sold on that. I see nothing but fair wins for this. Sure. Oh man, cool! I got a mic in the audience.
She just said stand up. I'm like the only one today that's stand up.
All right, I'm going to sit down now.
Okay. Adam, your show's amazing. How, as far as the success of your donations and the financial success, the ask is important. You mentioned that. How much do you attribute to like the levels of donation that people have given? I mentioned to you real briefly, your use of rituals is genius, and it's cool, man. It's very, it's very engaging. How much do you attribute to that, or to people attaining higher status level? It's the old, bronze, silver, gold, but more elaborate, and it's hard to understand, which is even cooler. You have to go onto a page and really, it's phenomenal. So,
well, first of all, when we made this switch 15 years ago, we decided to not call our audience listeners. We decided to call them producers. And we said, you have a responsibility, and here comes a cool little biblical thing we slipped in. You need to contribute time, talent, or treasure. It'll be all three. So guess what? A lot of people contributed time and talent. We haven't set up or paid for a server in at least 13 years. All the infrastructure, every website, search engines, everything is done by the value of the No Agenda community. Meetups is another thing. So this was we organized a meetup or two, and it'd be 100 people, and it was great. But now you go to noagendameetups.com. We don't run it. Sir Daniel, he created it. There's a meetup almost every single day of the week, multiple all across the world, from Japan to Russia to Istanbul, all across the United States. And it's very much like this, actually. Small groups of people getting together. They have one thing in common, no agenda. That could be, you see the same with Bitcoin meetups. So everything came from the people. We never came up with all of these rituals and ideas. We really didn't. People would just send a donation in and say, here's, I want some karma for this. Another, I don't, what do you mean by karma? Oh, I sent you a jingle with a bell and a harp. Okay, we'll be using that for 15. So it all comes from we're unsellable. You can't get rid of, the only way this podcast can end is after we both pass away. And even then, who knows what will come out of it. It is truly owned and operated by the entire community. And no one really knows exactly, but it's about 1.5 million people around the world. It's crazy. And that's the beautiful thing with Value4Value. I don't need to have meetings with advertisers. I don't need to look at numbers. How many CPMs did I get? No. Hey, John, can we pay rent? Yeah, we can pay rent. Good. We're doing okay. Yeah, and that's scary too, by the way. That's very frightening. When I made that switch, I actually left my own company. I was making $250,000 a year, I had health insurance. That all had to end for me to do it full time. I had a Cessna 182 airplane, loved it, ate that on the way. So it took some sacrifice. And just like all of you Bitcoiners know, and obviously ranchers and farmers, freedom always requires an extra step. You're not going to get an Apple iOS experience when you're really doing something that involves freedom. So with the people who kind of figured that out, we've created this environment. And to get into it, you have to kind of step into what you call the rituals. We didn't create the levels. The levels existed since the medieval times. We just applied it to what we're doing. And we don't track it. People are on the honor system. It's so nice, man. It's like I don't have to worry about, like the guy said, okay, we want a no agenda shop. We want to put on t-shirts and hats and hoodies. Go for it. Well, what do you want for it? Nothing. When you make some money, send the artist something and send us a donation. It's been going on for 10 years. Now I'm sure Brad is going, oh man, IP, this is wrong. And I need to have a chat with him because there's some interesting things we can do with IP and Value4Value.
What's been the most valuable thing you've learned from starting your podcast to now via your podcast?
Most valuable thing. You mean for success? Very easy. This is surprising. I learned it myself by being a consumer of podcasts. If you do a podcast, try to release it on the same time, same day, whatever your cycle is, week, month, whatever. If you can release, if you are a Monday release schedule, do it on Monday. Try to have it around the same time. The reason why people schedule their lives around you. It's unbelievable. We after 15 years, I said to John, I said, man, I'm tired of getting up at 5 a.m. on show days. I'd like to get up at 7. I basically get up at 5 every day then, if you get up 2 days a week at 5. So, we've been doing this for 15 years. We move it 2 hours later. We do it live, so there are people who are listening. Oh my. The disruption to people's lives. I'm not kidding. Man, I always drive home on this time and the show's not ready. So, and what happens is, it happened to me, I love listening to Orange Pill, Max and Stacy, and they were changing. Anyway, the show just kind of stopped becoming regular. And this was my Sunday, I'm in the shower show. And so that void opened up, and now I started listening to something else. So as a podcaster, that even though you can do it whenever you want because it's by subscription, you asked me, the most valuable thing I've learned is just that. Try to do it on that time.
So recently with my podcast, I found a lot of success with turning the listener into a part of the show. So decentralizing the show. Actually got the idea from you, of course. So can you speak a little bit about being able to provide a contributor, a split without having to sign any contracts, and how that enhances the product overall?
Wow. Okay. So we've never done contracts with anything or anyone. In Podcasting 2.0, you can split any payment sent to you amongst any number of recipients and determine the percentage each person gets. So you literally, if you have a co-host, you can say 40% for me, 40% for you, 5% for the producer, and 5% for my mom. She lent us the money for the studio. And in perpetuity, by the way, that just keeps on going. You can do it per episode. So you have a guest, you can give that guest a piece, and that guest will get that in perpetuity, but not from all the other stuff. Now, with contracts, man, this is not the world of contracts anymore. The contract is in the key. I mean, you can go look, you can write on podcastindex.org, you can click on a podcast, you can see who's getting what, how much, what their percentage is. That's your contract. It's more a social contract than anything. And of course, to do it, you can onboard through Fountain or podcasterwallet.com. Anyway, and actually, Fountain lets you manage that inside the app.
Hey, I'm curious about the on podcasting 2.0. I know you created that whole. Growing? How's it looking? Are you what metrics do you tell if it's growing? Is it Lightning Network payments, or I guess I don't know a lot about it right now.
Well, Podcasting 2.0 is two things. One is it's an independent alternative index of all podcasts we don't care what is in your podcast. If you're in, you're in. We created with that 15 new features, and we enabled 59 software developers and services and companies to create new podcasting experiences based upon that. They don't pay us. We don't charge them. It's value for value. If someone sends a payment, we get 1%, and that's voluntary. They don't have to give it to us, but everybody does. So we're part of the ecosystem. So we track more by number of transactions, not how much. The beautiful thing about value for value in the podcasting world is you don't have to really look at metrics. There's 9,000 podcasts that are podcast value for value enabled. You don't really have to look at metrics per se, because even with the smallest audience, you can already be receiving value. One listener can start streaming you value in return. Whereas if you are advertising based, again, censorship, you can't even talk about a competing product. You have to have at least 10,000 downloads a month just to even be considered. And then you're going to make $25, where you can create a community, use the value for value system with the notes, with the boostograms, to create the ongoing dialogue with the audience. And they actually build the show. It's not for every podcast, there's different types of podcasts, but they actually, in this case, they've really built up the show with their comments, their feedback, etc. That's the metric, not how much is it being used, or we don't care. I mean, we don't have to. None of the apps have to be number one. Fine. You want your fiat experience, you do it over there. You want something different, you get Podverse or Fountain or CurioCast or newpodcastapps.com. It's unnecessary. Will was saying today, man, I wish I remember how you said it, but you said it was about the online commerce. We're not growing, we're shifting it over. And that was beautiful. I really love that, because most corporations, when you talk about commodity farming and ranching, it's like grow 20% year over year. Got to be more and more. Like, no, we're just shifting it. Natural shift, natural progression to online, where of course there is future, but we're not necessarily looking to grow. I love that. Yes, scalable versus replicatable. Now, you are the definition of a gentleman and a scholar, by the way. Yes, you were so nice to that guy on Fox Business. You were so nice to him. Russell Brand saw it, of course. Yeah. Well, I don't think we need to try and fix those people. I think we need to reach out to the ones who are lost and need help. Yeah. Well, now there's a reason to bring in a Bluffton. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for your courage, Adam.
Thank you.
Have you given any thought to expanding the value for value model to services that may include overhead services?
Oh, yes. I mean, so this value for value can be implemented. Once you get your head around it, you can be implemented in so many ways. So first of all, we're going to do it for music. This is obvious. I mean, music makes so much sense to use it. It won't be in a podcast app. It'll be in a music app, and it'll be exactly the same concepts, but presented in a different way. The ask is a little more interesting. How does an artist do an ask? But so the value for value there would be the composer, writer, and then of course we can do something which is unheard of in the traditional music, in the fiat music business. We can add into that performer, band members, whoever played, etc. That's not how it works in the world of Spotify and Apple. So many different licenses, and it just doesn't work anymore. But when you start to think about all the different things you can connect to a lightning payment, we were just talking the other day, like there's people who make jingles all the time, and so I want a soundboard, which is like a cart machine where I can play my jingles. But when I play something by someone who sent that in to me, every single time I hit it, I want 1,000 sats to go to them. And we can do that now. I mean, I can almost do that with my minimal scripting skills. So I think we can implement this in so. I mean, if real far out future. But why wouldn't buying a cow or a hog or whatever? Why wouldn't there be a value split all the way down the line to whomever touched that? I'm not trying to get into your business, but I can envision it. I can see how instead of traditional salary, you get a piece of the split, the value of this animal. And there's so many things that it can be applied to. We got some work to do because it takes a lot of change of thinking. From here's the price to here's how we want to do it, and here's how we compensate people along the line. We showed that with the software developers, with the app developers. When Joe Rogan was still on regular, I mean, even any big podcast, they get $100,000 a month, $200,000 a month. You're listening to it on an app, and the developer of that app, he's not in that deal flow. He didn't get any of that. He maybe can, get you to subscribe for a premium option with premium features for $2.99 a month. No, now he's in there. He says, my app is so valuable. The work that I put in, you get charged 4% if you use my app when you send money through it. Everyone's cool with it. Not a single complaint. So now they're in the flow as well. So that kind of service, you can split it up like that infinitely. And what we're doing is not the only way to do it. There's LNURL. This is going so fast right now. The speed, we didn't have anything 2.5 years ago. Now we got Albi wallets and there's all kinds of issues, and we have to learn custodial versus sovereign. We're gonna have to go through some learning curves with everybody. But man, we are so underway. It's an explosion that is bubbling under, and you're not going to hear about it on CNN.
One more question. Last question of the night.
Oh, come on, man. Sing for me, baby. He can sing too. I'll bet you can sing.
Okay, so attend bi-weekly meetups in Denver. It was all I could do to keep from crying.
Yeah.
I can't sing for shit, man.
I want to thank you all so much for being here. If we haven't met already, let's definitely do that before anyone leaves. As again, I'll be here today, tomorrow, not leaving until Monday. Thank you all for coming. It's been a joy and quite a privilege.